Bryan Harsin and Auburn, they came into SEC Media Days today. They were one of the first teams to arrive here. And you knew that we were going to get a lot of talk about that stuff that happened off the field back in February. It feels a lot further back than that. And if you're unfamiliar, do the research. I think most of you who are watching the show are familiar. But there was a lot of stuff that was done by people in the Auburn sphere to, try and oust Bryan Harsin. And he kind of stepped up on the main stage podium today and said a definitive, it didn't work. Those were his words. It didn't work. We got him to ourselves, and we talked with him extensively about that. But also, I've noticed this, and I think a lot of you guys have noticed this. Anytime Bryan Harsin has said something about this, which has been rare, but today, anytime he said something about it, there was always this group of like 5 to 7 either regional or national types out there. Don't need to mention them by name. They got a little snippy response, and basically they insinuate, well, he won't be there that long anyway. He's out of here in a year. If I didn't know anything about Harsin, if I didn't know anything about the Auburn program, which I do, but if I didn't, and I just saw the reaction that he gets from a certain group of people, it would default me over to the Bryan Harsin side of the fence. Now, as it stands, I do know something about him. We did get to meet with him, and I do intimately know the Auburn program because it's the closest one that I grew up to down in Columbus, Georgia. But Bryan Harsin, I want to make something very clear. Bryan Harsin has no clue if this is his last year. And I'm not talking about something that's already been decided, but you know as well as I do, the expectation level's not high for that team. The over-under preseason win total is 6, not 8 or 9, 6. So if they go 7-5, they're viewed as an overachiever. Well, that's not the standard at Auburn, obviously. You and I both know that. But there are a lot of folks out there who would tell you he's done this year because they don't have a good enough team. And so the follow-up would be, and they know it. I've heard folks say that, and they know it. No, they don't know it. Bryan Harsin, when you talk to him, when you listen to him or when you meet him one-on-one, he talks like he has Nick Saban's roster. He talks like he has Kirby Smart's roster. He talks with that air of confidence about himself. It's really a bunker mentality, and it is something that competitors have. And there are a lot more folks out there who claim to be competitors than there are true competitors. There are a lot of folks out there who say, oh, I hate to lose. There are far fewer out there who really do what it takes not to be a loser. Bryan Harsin's not a loser. I'm not telling you he's about to go 10-2 and make a Sugar Bowl run this year. I'm just telling you everything that can be done and is possible at Auburn will be exhausted this year. The other thing to keep in mind, this goes back to my own expectation level for Auburn, is, the quarterback situation is what we're paying attention to across the SEC because it's a really deep year at quarterback. The guy last year who was the preseason Heisman favorite is in the SEC, and no one's even talking about him. He's overshadowed so much. His name's Spencer Rattler, by the way. He plays football now for South Carolina. But at Auburn, that's one of the places where there isn't one guy who's standing out. Zach Calzada, the A&M transfer, you think may end up winning the job. He didn't get to go through spring. TJ Finley was there last year. You've already seen him. Did he look like a guy who can lead them to 9 or 10 wins? Remains to be seen there. Robbie Ashford's the Oregon transfer. Point being, you can have the right mentality. You can do everything right and still lose football games in this conference. I'm not ignorant enough to suggest otherwise. What I am saying is, if you could be around Harsin, if you're a certain kind of person, let me put it that way. I'm one of them. And you could be around Harsin, and then you listen to a lot of the chatter outside from another kind of person, you'd end up probably pulling for Bryan Harsin, unless you grew up a Georgia fan, or you grew up an Alabama fan or LSU fan, in which case I get it. But I really appreciate how he handles his business. That's what I'll say about him. Win, lose, or draw. I appreciate how he handles his business. I appreciate how he handled the mess, the garbage that was thrown his way off the field, up to and including today. And so that's my takeaway from Bryan Harsin. Nothing about what he said today or the way he carries himself changes what they will be on the field this fall. But, we don't have football happening right now to talk about. We do have that to talk about.